Welcome, everyone. I'm David Easthope, and I'm excited to be hosting this webinar and talking to senior industry leaders about a fascinating topic, powering market data through cloud and artificial intelligence and machine learning. Quite a mouthful. And today I'm delighted to be speaking to senior executives in capital markets who are doing the actual heavy lifting to bring cloud to their clients and to their own organizations through efforts in market data transformation, delivery, and consumption. Just yesterday, Google Cloud released a study with Coalition Greenwich examining how cloud and artificial intelligence and machine learning are powering market data distribution and consumption in institutional capital markets. And I encourage you to go read the research papers, details of which are available on the Google Cloud blog and will be made available to you in a follow-up communication. But for a quick overview, Coalition Greenwich interviewed 102 executives within capital markets across North America and Europe, with the research encompassing a wide range of perspectives from firms of different sizes and asset classes. Our respondents included the buy side and sell side and leading exchanges, trading systems, as well as market data providers. The results were eye-opening and demonstrate dramatic shifts in the adoption of cloud and AI machine learning across both market data producers and consumers, along with further evidence of a penetration of cloud-based services across the trading and investing lifecycle. So once again, I'm David Easthope, Senior Analyst and Head of FinTech Research in Greenwich Associates Market Structure and Technology Practice. And I'm pleased to be joined by executives who are changing how market data is delivered and managed at their respective firms. So first, I'd like to welcome everyone. Hello, everybody.
David.
First, and I will allow you to introduce yourself, but I just wanted to go through the names one by one. First, we have Trey Berre. He is the Global Head of CME Data Services at CME. So welcome, Trey. We have Brad Levy, CEO of Symphony, and Ulku Rowe, Technical Director, Financial Services, Google Cloud. So welcome, everyone. Why don't we go around briefly so you can describe your role, your firm, and how you fit in with the market data ecosystem. So Trey, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, David. So I am the global head of CME's data services business, which is responsible for CME's fourth largest business line. We are responsible for the development of market data policy. Our benchmark administration function reports up through to me and is a part of the data services business. We're also responsible for developing new products and services, and I think that this forum here is a great opportunity for us to highlight some of those solutions that we've been delivering to customers over the course of the last several years. So thanks for having us.
Of course. Brad?
Thanks, David, and thanks to everyone for joining. Brad Levy, CEO of Symphony. I've been at Symphony a little over a year. I spent the prior 29 years of my life in the capital markets and on the market infrastructure side. Symphony is a platform that is taking a full stack collaboration capability and deploying it in financial services to improve workflows at the user level and in a secure way at the institutional level. And we are federated across the street, so you can use Symphony, across firewalls and institutions. We're not a data company, but we will deliver a lot of data to users. And we don't see any of the data on our platform. It's just something that we can enable a lot of interaction, a lot of sharing, and a lot of actioning of events around data.
Thanks, Brad. Ulku?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ulku Rowe. I'm a technical director with the Office of the CTO at Google Cloud. I work with some of our most interesting, biggest clients in the financial services space, helping them solve their engineering problems and help them plot out the future of their businesses as technology becomes a major driver in that business change. I also spend a lot of time with the financial regulators, as the space is shaping up, and I happen to sit on the advisory board of the New York Fed. Before joining Google about 4.5 years right now, I spent a lot of time in the financial services industry myself, building mostly trading and risk management applications, places like JPMorgan Chase, Bank of America, and UBS. And I'm delighted to be here today.
Thank you, Ulku, and welcome everyone. So why don't we just dive right in, and One of the places I always like to start when we talk about market data is defining our terms up front. And I know that there are varying definitions of market data. The full range of market data truly goes beyond just exchange feeds. But maybe, Brad, since you're handling so much of this data on behalf of your clients, why don't you start with how you define market data?
And I guess I would start by saying, it is data that moves markets. I think it was more thought of historically as an input to things that move markets, but it's probably more of a loop in reality. And we would take probably a broader view of highly structured market data, which is really what those exchange feeds look like, very large, very real time, very structured. And then to some of the most unstructured data in the market. And these are really, the data where a trader, a decision maker on risk, or somebody that is managing risk would care. I mean, it could go all the way to news events that could be captured and put up against, a risk book, or obviously, what does the limit order book look like, that may be trying to engage in a specific market at a specific time. So it's really the idea that there's these broad market data or broad data sets that influence markets, and then you want to understand how you might use that broad data to go into a specific market, like equities or futures or bonds. So it's that combination of data moving markets in highly structured, highly unstructured, maybe even including what people would call the alternative data world. But I think it's a much broader view, and I think a lot of the technologies that we're talking about, including Google, are going to enable us to bring this together more in a circular way than in a more linear way where it's market data in and sort of trader out.
Exactly. And Trey or Ulku, anything to amplify on that, given that we've taken a broad approach?
Yeah, I could probably add to that. Sorry, I could add to that. Market data and structured market data, as Brad alluded to, is still critically important to the trading community. And this includes the traditional exchange data feeds that everyone is so used to leveraging, which I would argue, still have or still are a key factor in executing trading and investment strategies. I think the bigger theme we're seeing today, and one we're at CME are intently focused on, is how to make traditional market data more customizable for an individual experience and, quite frankly, easier to access. And so, for example, for customers where speed matters the most, they often already have significant investments in their proprietary technologies and their methodologies that they apply directly to our raw data feeds. However, what we're seeing is a wide array of clients that are looking for exchanges to provide more flexible ways of accessing and interacting with the underlying data through analytics solutions, for instance. So where we're seeing most of the demand today is on the buy side, or with some of our smaller prop firms, or even increasingly more sophisticated retail traders looking for the opportunity to execute individual strategies for more precise and deeper intelligence into the underlying data. So while we continue to add more data products to our portfolio in the context of derived data sets and benchmarks and indices, and as Brad mentioned, alternative data, we'll also continue to leverage innovative technologies to help customers of all types to derive insights they need to make more informed business decisions.
Yeah, David, you asked how do you define market data, right? I remember my first job out of school, a while ago. It was on a derivatives trading desk, and all of our market data we'd get in one feed, and we could fit it all in an Excel spreadsheet. Right? And then we could run all our analytics based off of that. We could do all our markets, everything just fits in one file. Today, that world is just so phenomenally different, because market data now is coming from all sorts of data providers in structured form, unstructured form, and it's no longer a batch concept, right? It's coming every second of the day, and it's coming in every form from every source. So market data no longer is just this one thing, but it's this ecosystem, a platform that's coming at you with high velocity, high volume, high complexity, and then the technology that needs to support that has evolved and shaped phenomenally as well.
Great. That provides us kind of a really balanced perspective on everything. So, Trey, you mentioned the buy side and sell side, those use cases. So actually, according to Google Cloud's research, which was conducted with us, with Coalition Greenwich, today 90% of the buy side and 67% of the sell side are consuming cloud-based market data services. So a very high watermark for both segments. So Ulku, let's come back to you. How are cloud providers like Google supporting data providers and exchanges, and how can firms leverage this data in the right way, avoiding some of those common pitfalls and challenges? What's your perspective?
Yeah, when you ask like the definition of market data, we talked about how it's changed. So now you need the tooling that enables that change. So when I think about market data and market data tools, it's actually a spectrum of tools, anything from like that allows you to consume this data at high velocity and for you to be able to store this data at reasonable costs, because that, the cost element of like the volume of data has also grown a lot. Then you need the set of tools for you to be able to clean that data and make sure that the data has like the high fidelity, so that if you're going to make trading decisions on that data, if you're going to make risk management decisions on that data, you need a set of tools that will help you clean that data. So you need the entire pipeline of like consuming it, cleaning it, persisting it, feeding into the analytics tools, and making it available to your customers. So at Google, what our focus on is making sure that all those data tools work together to create that entire experience. So it's not just about, giving you a warehouse so that you can, run some SQL queries on it. It's very much focused on creating a set of tools that work with each other, everything from, our tools like Dataflow to BigQuery to Bigtable to our Looker offering is about making that data from the moment like it starts hitting your systems to the moment that you're offering it to your customers or using it for your own consumption. It's easy to use because it's incredibly complicated today, right? Like the data, that data that used to sit on an Excel spreadsheet is now beyond human comprehension almost, right? Then you need the data and analytics tools on top of that, and then the next level is you need the AI tools on top of that to be able to gather the insights. So our focus, like long story short, is making that tooling super easy to use, cost effective, and easy to integrate with the rest of your setup.
Yeah, I can see that the benefit of all these tools, and I can see the benefit of platforms like Symphony. Brad, you mentioned all those workflows that you support, and we'll get to those in a section on the consumption side of data. But for the immediate future, I'd like to go back to Trey and talk a little bit about delivery. According to our research, 83% of exchanges and trading systems offer cloud-based data services, and we'll be offering new cloud-based data services such as derived data, end-of-day data, reference data, and in-pricing data. So Trey, what are you seeing in terms of deployment of these data services using the cloud, and how are things evolving?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with respect to CME, we've been really focused on our ability to deliver content in a more seamless and flexible way to our clients. And cloud has clearly played a key role in that. Going back to 2016 was where we first launched our first cloud-based solution through our CME DataMine platform, which allowed our clients to access our historical data, which consists of around 450 or so terabytes, almost instantaneously. And this was really pivotal for us because it was an inflection point. It was a transition point for us at the time, where we were taking orders by phone and delivering historical data to our clients on a thumb drive through the mail. So leveraging the cloud and the capabilities that came with that, which were on-demand types of solutions, as well as self-service solutions. We were able to implement credit card purchasing through DataMine. All of that really revolutionized our business model for historical data distribution. And then fast forward to 2019, CME was the first exchange to launch real-time data accessed through our partnership with Google Cloud. And customers once we were able to launch that service in partnership with Google, our clients could access the same data that we deliver through our market data platform, our colo facilities, our global hubs, but without the need for them to provision servers or manage infrastructure on premises. So this not only provided more flexibility, I would say, to our clients, but also allowed those that were not hamstrung by investments in legacy on-prem architecture to recognize some cost savings. So our investments in cloud really align to our focus and the strategy of helping make it easier for our clients to do business with CME Group, and really for them to grow and innovate. And it is an area where we're going to continue to build upon. We have continued to innovate alongside Google. But I would also say, while we have a wonderful partnership with Google, we also have to be adaptable, and we also have to be agnostic as to the cloud providers we partner with in the long term, and focus more on what venues our clients are gravitating to. And that's really what's going to give us the capabilities to access new clients and access new communities that we otherwise haven't serviced in the past.
Thanks, Trey. That's a really helpful history on the developments there. And we've hit on some of the front office delivery improvements there. But Brad, as you know, take a average buy-side shop, they're consuming cloud deployed data across their front as well as their middle and back office. And that includes a variety of data sets, real-time data, portfolio management data, risk analytics. We've talked about APIs, data centers, but there's also humans with eyeballs and screens. So how do you actually handle that, and how do you see platforms kind of leveraging all of this data across all the different functions? It seems like it's a big challenge.
Yeah, and I think and the word platform is awesome, because platforms are great, and we are a platform. Google is a platform. CME is a platform, and I think we need to be careful about conflating the word client and user. I think we've typically in our industry sold to institutions and maybe forgotten the user below. We are all about, taking our platform, connecting it to players like the CME, working with Google, which we also have a partnership, and it's exciting to know that we have common partners at times as we deliver, I would say, at the institutional level. But when ultimately Symphony's play is, what about the user, right? And when we talk about tooling, there's tooling that you need to consume in a platform environment, sort of take in, push out. But then there's ultimately a user that really just needs to get to the data that is perfect for them at the moment they're in, whether they're front, middle, or back office. So it's a person that's Jim or Sally, like there's an actual name associated with the client. So what we're trying to do is take our platform, have it be somewhat irrelevant to the user, very powerful to the institution, and so that you can really deliver that great experience to the end user where they could find exactly what they need, exactly at the time. To Ulku's point, back in the day, I could have built a pivot table myself on your Excel spreadsheet and I didn't need help. But really now you need a platform to consume, a platform to make sense of, a platform to surface, and then the actioning based on a user's interest to take more risk or take risk off. So I think it's really that journey from platforms to platforms to platforms into a user experience, and then looping back around day two when they can sort of reopen their book and trade again as a person. So Symphony is trying to go person up with platform. I think some of our infrastructures in our industry are more platform down. And we're just trying to be part of that, the world where that could be much more seamless and almost irrelevant to the person, where there's these platforms that are just enabling to do that work right at the moment they need to, and not lose a moment in time in terms of throughput and clicking or signals or bots, sitting between all of these workflows.
Great, it's really helpful, and I think we've done amazingly well so far. We haven't mentioned AI machine learning too much yet, so let's jump into that. Data providers are always launching new data products, and these are powered by the cloud. They're powered by AI and machine learning. According to the research we just put out with Google, we observed 50% of data providers are deploying services that are powered data services that are powered by AI machine learning. You know, we've done some work already defining terms up front, but Ulku, how do you define the spectrum of AI and machine learning, and how can AI and machine learning power these and other data services in the cloud? And I know Trey and Brad, you also have thoughts to add there as well, but let's start with Ulku.
Yeah, I think at a very basic level, AI and machine learning is the ability of the computer to be able to learn from the data at hand, right? You know, without you having to program it. There's no if statements, then statements. There's no while loops. You know, it's the computer looking at the data and making inferences about that data. Now, when you look at the spectrum, you know, what has really been interesting, I think, in the last, you know, maybe 10 years, is the fact that it used to be that, you know, only AI researchers had access to AI models and AI capabilities. And now there's more and more publicly available deep learning frameworks that are available to the customers, right? You know, things like TensorFlow, which is our open source machine learning libraries that are available. So, you know, nobody has to write, you know, image recognition models themselves anymore. There's like publicly available frameworks that are available, and companies like Google and others are providing them. But then there's also, like, as you walk up that spectrum, there's the machine learning models, and then there's now available like pre-trained learning models, as I call them, right? Like there's the NLP libraries, there's vision, video, you know, document understanding. So there's more and more availability of these like pre-trained models available to them. And then there's the researchers, or, you know, in financial services, mostly the quant type researchers that are working off of the either available libraries or the pre-training models that are building the financial models on top of those. So obviously, you know, because machine learning is such a data game, the availability of the cloud and your ability to be able to consume and process and understand vast amounts of data is now making it available for more and more firms to be using, you know, these available models and the data together on the cloud to be able to effectively use these models and build them themselves as well. Now, having said that, I think that the word of the day today is platforms, right? AI models or even like AI programs on their own are very ineffective. What you do need is a platform that enables you to use that AI in production effectively. And what does that platform include? It includes your data pipeline, making sure that you have the right data in there. It includes your ML ops capabilities. You know, how do you build the model? How do you train it? How do you deploy it? How do you make sure that it continues to work the way you want it to work in production? So that whole like model lifecycle management capability that's easy to use, so that you can actually deploy these frameworks widely in your developer community. And then, like, you know, there's also things like, you know, explainability of the models. Now you need tooling to say, okay, why is the model doing the thing that it's doing? You need tooling to also explain and understand whether there's any bias that's crept into your models. And all of those themselves need to come together to create this you know, this AI capability in the firms. And that's like what companies like us at Google were focusing on. Again, you know, making sure we have the data tools available, making sure we have the ML ops capability there, making sure we got explainability, making sure that we have, you know, production management of tools. So that's where we come in as we work with our customers. When I say customers, it's the financial institutions like, you know, Brad's and Trey's, to help enable them to build that kind of capability in their internal systems, so that then they can build the AI capability that they offer to their own customers.
That's quite helpful.
Yeah, if I could just maybe come in on that, Dave. So I think there's a lot of definitional things that go on when people talk AI, and I think it may be, so to me, I think of AI as more of an outcome or the wrapper of all of these concepts. And there's a lot of the tooling that we've talked about, but there's the OCRing where you're ripping apart documents, and the video or voice to texting. And then there's the NLP, I'll just keep going with 3-letter acronyms. And then you get into sort of the machine learning model and the deep learning model, and then you sort of create an insight with a probabilistic outcome 80% of the time, and that's probably not a fire hydrant. It's a person in a red coat, right? So there's that spectrum of intelligence that needs to be put in a platform that you can sort of run front to back, get all of that unstructured information with structured information, push through to a tool that can tell someone, if this happens, is this more likely or less likely to happen? So I think it's that idea that AI outcome, which is 80% probabilistic, versus a machine learn, which could be 100% answer. Like, that's always a password reset in an email that you're getting, and you just need to put a bot against that, because it's always, when somebody says, I need my password reset, they always need their password reset. And you could just do that by automation, where that might or might not be a woman in a red coat or a red fire hydrant.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, we've talked about a bit about the importance of data, delivering it via the cloud. We've just hit on the tooling upgrades, and actually our research shows that a lot of exchanges will be prioritizing those AI machine learning tooling upgrades in the next year or so. Cloud can provide some of those internal data insights as well as the delivery side. So Trey, just to turn things over to on the data transformation side, when you think about your own roadmap and transformation, how does some of these tools fit into your evolution in the next year or so? Like, what are you guys looking at CME?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So I can't really get into maybe specifics about future product plans, but I would say that broadly, being focused on leveraging the innovative technologies that allow our customers to reduce frictions and streamline their experiences and get data-driven decisions, all of those types of things fit really nicely into what Ulku had mentioned in terms of where our focus is. So where are we today? And that is providing customers with access to platforms and services, the keywords here today, where they're capable of accessing our data easily and then applying either their own analytics or machine learning capabilities on top of it, or they're able to leverage analytics provided by third parties whom CME have chosen to partner with to gain insights and make them informed trading decisions. All of this, while maybe not all of these solutions are cloud-based today, that, in my opinion, is where things are trending. And that is where the customers are demanding these types of solutions sit. So a recent example of that that I can speak about with respect to CME is a partnership that we recently struck with a company called Beacon. And Beacon owns an analytics platform, and through this collaboration, Beacon customers can extract and scale our historical data instantly through the cloud, allowing them effectively to bypass the additional data engineering work if it were on-prem, and be able to leverage Beacon's analytics solution to process our data to drive insights and to drive a deeper understanding of the underlying market data. And so, it's these on cloud or it's these in cloud types of solutions that really help remove some of the technical burdens that our clients are seeing, and it allows them to move more nimbly, look at data faster, it frees up time, there are cost savings associated with that. So these are the areas we're continuing to focus on with respect to cloud-based services, and it dovetails very nicely, as I said, in what Ulku had mentioned earlier.
Great, thanks, Trey. So I think that we've definitely touched on the potential for data delivery, the benefits of AI and machine learning. One of the things that we really dug into in our research is the internal workloads for public cloud. And actually, what we found is that our research shows that this trend is accelerating and that firms are using more public cloud to get their data in better shape to extract some of these data insights. So there's that work that has to be done up front. So I'm going to throw this out to Brad and you, Trey, as well. So how are you thinking about public cloud internally? How might this change going forward for some of those internal workloads?
Yeah, well, from our perspective, as Symphony started right out of the gate as a platform that we used ourselves. So Symphony was a cloud-based platform, and we were using that ourselves to do our own work. We also happen to be a Google platform firm where we use the Google suite of products as well in our day-to-day lives internally, which is also cloud-based. So for me personally, I could roam around the world. I have all the tooling I need between the Google products and the Google Cloud, my products in the cloud, and it feels very available to me all the time when I do my job internally. Now, I've only been here for a year or so. I can tell you that many people in the buy side in the asset management world don't have that internal experience when they do their job. So I think I've experienced my own internal success or joy by having things more available to me, and documents are where they need to be wherever I am in the world. So I benefited from cloud-based technologies, whether it's Google products, Symphony products, or the blend of those for me, including Salesforce. So we use Salesforce in the back, Symphony in the front, and Google applications around us, all cloud-based, all available to me. Having come from a different type of a platform vendor prior to Symphony and the investment banking world prior to that, none of this was even a thought or possible even a few years ago. And I think with the pandemic now, that remoteness, that availability is just critical, and we're just all going to move there. Final point, I do think, and I think Trey said the word on-prem, I do think there's going to be much more of a blend of a lot of these capabilities will be available in multiple places, in the cloud, in on-prem. Our platform can be deployed in other environments on platform, and sort of no matter where you are, on-prem, in cloud, a user, an institution, these will be much more available in the coming years. Not just internal, not just public cloud, external public cloud, internal private cloud. And a lot of these tools will become more commoditized in a good way. And then we'll be able to bring them together in a more proprietary way. And that will be the competitive differentiators for both providers like us and the users on the other side.
How about you, Trey? Anything to add on internal use cases?
Yeah, I would submit that Brad's experience with the benefits of public cloud are very similar of an experience that we see here at CME Group. CME has been leveraging the cloud for many years, both from an IT perspective as well as from the point of leveraging tools that can help do cross collaboration across internal groups or even across companies. And that has been quite an advantage to CME in terms of efficiencies as well as just driving new and more innovative kind of thinking. Where the data services business, I would say, really sees an advantage of public cloud is with respect to allowing CME to access new communities of clients that we otherwise may not have been aware of in years past. And so the benefit I see as a business line owner from public cloud solutions is the opportunity to expand our reach in a way that we otherwise have not in years past. And so that has clearly been something that I've noted over the course of the last couple of years as we've been on this cloud journey, especially with respect to our real-time data.
Yeah. And if I may jump in, I think, Brad, you mentioned the pandemic's impact, on capital markets. I think also something interesting happened with the pandemic, right? Suddenly when the exchanges shut down, when the trading floors shut down, it, I think, created a fundamental, almost awakening in the industry's collective mind that proximity doesn't matter anymore, right? Like, you don't have to be close to your servers. You don't have to be close to your market data. Like, these things can actually be available to you through the digital world, and the physical doesn't matter anymore. When the pandemic happened, in the early days and still today, I spend a lot of time with our customers that are now like doing this rush to the cloud almost, because they're now, now that everything, the entire economy has gone to digital, and their workers are no longer, confined to their corporate offices. The computers no longer need to be on-prem. Suddenly created this mind shift, I think, in capital markets to accelerate the move to the cloud, not just for like their own products, but for also the internal workloads, and making sure like their employees have access to these tools themselves wherever they work. So it's been a very interesting shift in a very positive way. I think like the advances in capital markets in the cloud in the last 2 years since the pandemic definitely outpaces the move to the cloud prior to that.
Yeah, I'm curious, Ulku, you see a broader set of financial services companies other than kind of capital markets and exchanges. Has that been universal, that adoption? I think one example that comes to mind is New York Stock Exchange has a specific model where they have actual physical human beings, designated market makers, and those people had to move remotely, right? So how do you handle that? And I'm just curious to see, was that uniform cloud kind of hockey stick growth, or was it sort of within pockets within this universe that you talk to?
Within financial services, I think I'll say it's universal, probably not uniform, right? It still depends on the institution. Like the move itself was touching everybody, but with the speed with which you can do it, obviously changes. And some of the factors in that is like how much of a legacy infrastructure that you have, right? Some of the more traditional financial services institutions have a lot more traditional, the on-prem complicated legacy infrastructures that have been around for decades and decades, some of them. But if you are a more nimble shop, you're able to move a lot faster. So if you're a fintech, if you're some of the exchanges, the hedge funds are able to move faster than some of the other names. So there's differences, but I think collectively that's definitely been the case. And I think we're going to continue to see that. But like, stepping out of financial services for a second too, like it's universal also to every industry, definitely in retail, right? There was a mad rush to retail for sure, but it wasn't just in retail and media and entertainment. I think that those rises in those industries took everybody else along with them too. And financial services was definitely one of those industries.
And David, if I could just offer just a very specific point, I think we want to sort of create a solution for everyone and sort of deploy it. But just to use two examples, I work with the banking industry a lot, and just to compare, like Goldman Sachs with 30,000 people and Wells Fargo with 300,000 people. That is 10 times the number of bodies, and they have a very different physical footprint around the globe. So you can't say it's universal but not uniform, and I'm going to steal that from you, Ulku. So I'll give you a TM or a royalty at some point in the NFT world. You just got to put it in an NFT and we can track it. But I really think that we are all supposed to be able to be very unique but leverage these common platforms, and I think the pandemic really expressed that very well. Like, there is no uniform experience, but the trend is identical everywhere.
Yeah, Trey, what was your experience in terms of the remote workflows and kind of the explosion of trading activity happening from kitchens and bedrooms?
Yeah, so where we saw the pandemic, I would say influenced the most change are probably in two areas. So one is with respect to the closing of our options pits, our physical pits, and the need for those traders to very quickly find solutions to execute electronically. Now, in most cases, just because they were a floor trader doesn't, they all had, a lot of them already had front-end technologies where they could continue their business, but in some cases, some did not. And so CME offers its own proprietary front-end solution called CME Direct, and we were very quickly able to get those traders up and running in a very short amount of time, where they could access all of the tools that we offer through CME Direct. And CME Direct has actually been one of the leading front ends in terms of growing our options complex based on the analytics tools that we offer on there, as well as the fact that we offer it at no charge. And so it was really easy for those clients to make the transition. I would say from a data perspective, we did see an increased demand for display device data, which is, those clients who want to view our underlying market data on a screen through a Bloomberg terminal, through an Icon terminal, or some other proprietary device. We have 400 distributors, so take your pick. But when folks started to move out of the office environment, where they may have shared a Bloomberg terminal and move, into their own homes to do their business, we did see quite an increase in demand for market data. Perhaps a little of that was because people weren't sharing passwords or whatnot, but some of it was also because they needed the ability to not only view data at work, but also view data at home. And so that was a bit of a shift that we saw as a result of the pandemic.
Great. Thanks for those interesting perspectives. And I think that this is the most exciting part of any webinar, is sort of the crystal ball time, the predictions time. We like to look out and suggest things that are going to happen or should happen. So why don't we start with you, Brad? I think, looking out on a 3-year time frame, what do you anticipate in terms of the marketplace evolution for cloud and market data? What are you expecting to happen over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I really think the practical side is this unstructured data world, which is very large, whether it's chats or documentation or voice or even video, right? There's a tremendous amount of unstructured data that will all be much more analyzable and then usable in analytics and put together. So I think, what I referenced earlier in the conversation is maybe a little bit premature in terms of the definition of market data and unstructured to structured and how that all blends together. But I really do believe in the next several years, this tremendous amount of unstructured data that's moving around, the markets is going to be more accessible, more analyzable, and then, put into machines that could create insights to actions. So that is clearly, to me, a very steep ramp in the next several years. And from our perspective, having just bought a Trader Voice soft cloud-based system where we can now really capture that voice, in addition to the chats, in addition to the video, and taking all of that and then the huge world of unstructured data away from that, I think that's really going to be a lot of the innovations, the evolutions, and maybe the real secret sauce, for the folks that can differentiate themselves, not in a benign market, but in a highly volatile market, that, getting that one piece of information sooner about maybe a hedge fund, having a challenge out there and being able to, manage your counterparty risk, that's going to become just that much more important. And I think that movement to unstructured data, putting it in a system where you can really analyze it is going to be that big run in the next couple of years. And then obviously putting it, through the systems and to the UI, and Trey was, really on point with, it's all about how do you get that data to you. And if you have that turret at your desk, you need to kind of have that somewhere else, because if you're really pinned to that desk, whether it's a terminal or turret, you really need to liberate that a bit. And, we'll do that over time, but, the data will be very capturable in the next several years. And that will probably, happen before the infrastructure side can follow, where we can really start to move, anywhere we want, whenever we want, with the hardware, that we just happen to have at our home or at a multi, office work, environment with a lot more hoteling and all of that. So I think that's a 3-year, no-brainer in terms of what's really going to happen in a practical way.
And Trey, we've seen, speaking of unstructured data, we've seen exchanges bring that in-house, right? We've seen an explosion of providers, and we've seen various exchanges decide to deliver that. What are you seeing in terms of the evolution over the marketplace over the next couple of years around market data? What's the CME viewpoint?
Yeah, a lot of this is probably predicated on just our customer engagement in terms of what maybe my forecast is. But customers, in my opinion, are going to want to increasingly look for more customizable solutions. They're going to want to access data entirely in the cloud environment in the future. In my opinion, they're no longer going to want to download data and store it on premises. They're going to want to call their data on demand in real time. We'll also probably see a continued proliferation of cloud-based analytics tools, which I'm hypothesizing will at some point become more standardized or more commoditized as more and more of those become prevalent within the industry. And I see that latency with which data is distributed will continue to improve, and so we'll continue to see efficiencies in the way cloud-based solutions deliver data, which I think is really exciting for those clients who are sensitive to latencies with data, and that might encourage them to transition more and more to a cloud-based environment. I think as a fledgling financial firm, I see continued innovation in the cloud environment to be quite promising, quite frankly. And, you know, Ulku and I kind of mentioned this or discussed this a bit before the session began. And we're just seeing these new firms, especially, you know, what I'm seeing is in the crypto space, where they are not hamstrung to the legacy technology and the burdens that come with on-premises equipment, and they are almost entirely based in the cloud, both from a trading perspective. I mean, the trading platform, so to speak, or the trading environment is all cloud-based, and the way in which they consume data is cloud-based. And so that to me is quite exciting, and it will. I see that trend continuing. But I also think that it's important for all of us to encourage the more, I'll call them legacy financial institutions that have been around for 100+ years. For them, it will be more about education and ensuring that they understand what benefits cloud can bring to them. And so that's maybe where I see things going over the course of the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, you mentioned those crypto, the 24/7 markets, Trey. We've talked about latency. Ulku, these are topics I'm sure you pay a lot of attention to, right? Latency, how to support your clients in 24/7 environments. You know, one of the reasons traditional financial institutions haven't gotten into crypto as much is because of the nature of 24/7 markets. So how do you feel about the future of the next couple of years and some of these cloud native businesses that are being built on top of Google? What's the future going to look like?
Predictions are hard. I try not to make predictions because, you know, who would have predicted we would have gone through a global pandemic and suddenly there would have been this massive acceleration of digitization and what we're seeing today. But there's trends, right? We're clearly seeing these trends, and we're basically, you know, we're helping our customers to stay on top of those trends. And what are those trends? I think, you know, as Trey mentioned, like if you're starting up a fintech today, there's no way you would build it on-prem, right? You'd go to the cloud because those tools it gives you the global footprint. You can be wherever you want to, you know, at the click of a button. Those are the tools that give you the agility so that you can actually have this very fast cycle from like the inception of an idea or a product to the productionization of that product. The cloud gives you resiliency, you know, as we've kind of experienced with both with the pandemic and you know, some of the other cyber issues around financial services. You need to have resilient infrastructures that are not just, you know, going to fall over if you lose a data center or if you lose a server or you lose a network. You know, cloud enables you to build these infrastructures that are going to stay resilient no matter, you know, what happens. You know, building for resiliency. So I think, you know, cloud gives you kind of that, what I'll call like the basics. These are like the table stakes, right? Resiliency, agility, you know, security with confidence. But then, like, what do you need on top of it as a business? You need to be able to have your data and your data insights available from them. So like that data platform, as we were talking, that enables you to get the data in a way that both the structured and the unstructured market data and get insights from it. And then, like, I think the most exciting bits over the next few years is going to be, now that like data is becoming more and more prevalent in the cloud space, is going to be the AI bits, right? You know, then how do you deploy AI models on top of that data to take the insights to the next level. So, at Google, we've actually been investing a lot of time and resources into our platform called Vertex AI. That's our ML Ops platform that enables businesses to build custom machine learning models, to deploy them and manage them over their life cycle, because we think that's what the businesses need to be able to use the power of AI on their data, market data for sure, but all kinds of data, combining with other data sets as well, and doing that with ease. Ease is going to be very important, right? You can't just have two machine learning researchers sitting on your, center of excellence somewhere doing all the work. Like, AI needs to come to the business users of your businesses. Like, everyone in your business needs to be empowered to be able to use these tools. Like, I see a future, I don't know if it's going to be in 3 years, but like, I see a future where AI is going to be as common as Excel.
As common as Excel, that's exciting. I think that just looking at the research that we've just concluded, the word ubiquitous comes to mind in terms of cloud for data delivery. We've talked about kind of the data preparation transformation stage for to improve those data insights. And it feels like, and I'm just gonna throw it back out to the panel, as Ulku said, AI and machine learning is like the next thing. Like, the next thing that's really become more pervasive as a tool, as an upgrade to your infrastructure. You can respond to certain requests. Brad, you mentioned the customer kind of experience. You can improve that through machine learning. What do you really think? And in the next 12 months, does it feel like those AI tooling and infrastructure upgrades are coming, or do we feel like that's more on the 2 to 3 year kind of time frame? Just throwing back out to Trey and Brad, if we can just go a little deeper on AI.
Yeah, I think it's definitely coming in the next 12 months. Like, the tools are coming, and I think the exciting part for me is what I would call an innovation explosion in the next years, as the data and the tools are just so much more widely available, and you'll just have a much larger community actually looking at, developing, and innovating. Obviously, you start a company now, you're in the cloud. I do believe that a lot of the traditional, not legacy, just traditional businesses will be more of a blend or even a straddle with the digital world. And I think there's a generation coming through that's digital native. There's a traditional analog world that is a lot of people and won't go away. And I think as you make these all much more available, no different than a Spotify, the media space has seen an explosion in creativity because it's just so much more available. That happened 10 or 15 years ago. Now we're seeing the result of that. The tools will happen in the next year or two, and I think the innovation explosion is in that 3-year time frame. And it's quite exciting because I'm not sure we've ever really had an innovation explosion in our industry, since the 70s when LBOs were invented.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? Trey, any thoughts on that?
I would concur with Brad in terms of timing and, just seeing a proliferation of these solutions all kind of arising within the next 12 to 18-month time horizon. I think open source has also contributed to that to some degree. And so you have a lot more people, individuals, I would say. So we don't have to rely on large corporations or even, startups to build these tools. There are individuals out there who are more than willing to put forth their knowledge and experience and provide these types of solutions into the open market at no cost or minimal cost. And so I think that also will help contribute to that acceleration, as Brad mentioned.
That's great, really great, and exciting to hear about all these developments in the next 12 months. We're all hopeful and optimistic about the next 12 months across our business and our personal lives as well. And I think this is the perfect place to stop on this optimistic, hopeful note and explosion of innovation that we'd all really like to see in our industries. And just want to say thank you, Trey, thank you, Ulku, thank you, Brad. And we really appreciate it. And I'll just remind folks on the webinar to take a look at that research that we will make available to them in a communication. But just thanks everyone for your time today and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.